All right, I want to summarize a little detail here. In polarizations, that the previous Gemini Mars retrograde transit was trying to show us in that phase of creating polarization and dualities to learn from through Gemini. It's important for us to understand this because Uranus is headed back into Gemini. When Uranus heads back into Gemini, it will be helpful if we understood why we had to process through those realities, why we had to catalyze for ourselves those particular lessons. And that is Mars versus Venus, male versus female, masculine versus feminine, left versus right, conservative versus liberal, Democrat versus Republican. Okay? When Mars went retrograde in Gemini, it established a close-up examination of who we are in those contexts, who we are if we put on those perceptions of polarization in Gemini. The polarization allows us to study things. It allows us to test things. It allows us to arrive at deeper understanding of things through the ethereal means of Gemini. This is why that timeline was so important between 2022-2023. It's part of the insight that we're supposed to have today. It's part of the wisdom and frequency of love that we're supposed to have today, because that's what Gemini is all about. Gemini is about duality, but that duality rises to wisdom and love. It's those two things. It rises to wisdom and love through that examination of duality. It presents itself as two opposing forces. But if we can detach from that reality, if we can detach from our personal stake in it, our personal trauma in it, our personal mischief that we have invested in it, our selfish aims that we have through the existence of these things, we're able to have a detached observation that gives us sharper wisdom and clarity that expresses love. Let me give an example. This polarization, it gave us a close-up of who we are in both extremes. Who we are in both extremes. On the left, the Black American woman is the archetype that teaches us what the left means in that Gemini perception, that catalyzed Gemini lesson. The left. It was through the Black American female. Not that Black African woman, not the Black Latino woman, specifically the Black American woman was our catalyzed teacher of the crisis that we get ourselves into when it comes to extremes of the left, the Democratic wing, feminism, Venus without arrival at wisdom and love. Venus in context of duality rather than wisdom and love. She was our divine teacher in spirit of that. We were learning it from her. When it comes to the right, the extremes of conservatism, the extremes of the Republican claim, make America great again, so on and so forth. It's the white male that we were learning this through. He catalyzed how we would learn to examine that duality, that portion of duality, that wing of duality, in order to arrive at wisdom and love through these experiences and crises of these polarities challenging and clashing with each other. So on the right, it's the white American male. On the left, it's the black American woman. Both of them taught us who we are when we are alienated from Cancer, when we betray Cancer, when we compromise Cancer, when we become fugitives from Cancer, when we desensitize ourselves from Cancer, when we are willing to sell Cancer for an outcome or objective. What crisis we put ourselves in Capricorn pursuits through the left or right. Capricorn ambitions through the left and right. Machiavellian disposition of ourself by way of liberalism or conservatism. These were the means by which we learn these things. Why do I mention Capricorn? Because it's politics, it's social science, it's social engineering, and it's Khazarians and the 13 families that designed it. The white American man is just a useful idiot for the Khazarians who designed the whole scheme. The black American woman is just a useful idiot for the whole design and scheme to operate. The Khazarian gave the white man a delusion in himself. He gave the black woman a delusion in herself. Both of them were subject to the same spell and crisis that they were not aware of about themselves. They both found themselves in an illusion of success and victory through systemic opportunities that were designed to put them above certain other people. The black woman in particular to put her above the black American male. The white man to put him above all people in hierarchy of the corporate society. He has a 400-year legacy of that. The black woman only has a legacy of that as far back as modern feminism between the 50s and 60s. You didn't really start to see it until around the 70s, the Woodstocky type, energy, or coming home from Vietnam. It reached its zenith during the Obama era. The black American woman was used to incorporate entirely the black community, number one, and all females of Western society, number two. What I mean by incorporate is to subject their cultural circumstances to transactional, fear-based culture. Feminism is a fear-based culture. Corporate greed and ambition and pursuits, it is a fear-based culture and intention. The white man and the black woman, American specifically, were used as catalysts to mislead people into a fear-based expression of themselves and their culture. The black American woman is the useful idiot of white women who were given the seeded idea of feminism by Khazarians. But it was the black woman who took the risk and sacrifice to actually manifest it, which utterly destroyed her connection with her natural male counterpart in exchange for corporate opportunity and interest and an illusion of security in her domestic circumstances. By her doing that, this social programming, this regime of feminism, it became the lust, the desire, the motive of all women. This was the beginning of her going against her own nature, which is founded upon Cancer. This seeded the idea that she should envy the destiny, the nature of man, attempting to destiny swap with men, compete with men, imitate men, be men, replace men, challenge men, not find out how she could find fulfillment, meaning, and purpose through her own nature and design and aim, which is equal to man, not inferior. This is the danger of miseducation and social engineering. They had to use the black woman as their muse to pursue that idea, because she's the one who had nothing to lose. So it seemed. She's the one who had the bravery, the courage, the strength to desensitize herself enough to actually align with the ideal of feminism, which accelerated with Lyndon B. Johnson's plan and era. It reached its zenith during the Obama era. Ever since then, the black American woman has been the white American woman, specifically the liberal or democratic woman. She has been her personal useful idiot. Whenever the white woman wants to vicariously live through the black woman to fulfill her own intentions and ideas of her secret competition with male counterpart, her attempt to swap destiny with males, to be a man in a man's place, a man's role, I could do what a man do. Everything became about this fear-based intention of competing with or destiny swapping with males. Justified by liberation, freedom, and equality, which turns out to be a total contradiction in the outcome that feminism manifested in the long run. A total contradiction. It is fear-based corporate interests because it serves nothing but corporate outcomes and taxation and consumerism and dysfunction and family courts, an alienation of fathers, division of family, separation and alienation of family members, the single status of females in societies, expansion of taxable incomes, the removal of men from households so that children are easier to program without the scrutiny of the father, the filling up of jails and prisons as a consequence of this, childhood pregnancies as a consequence of this, traumatized females in society as a consequence of this, hypersexuality, serial dating, promiscuity, and the depression as a result of all of this, leading to abuse and use of drugs and alcohol, pornography. All of these things work together. It's part of the magic, the dark magic that separates man and woman, introduced by Harut and Marut, as explained in the Quran. Let me bring my tone down. I'm trying here. Let me bring my tone down. The black American woman is the white liberal woman's personal useful idiot. Whatever she wants to accomplish of her selfish feminist intentions, that she dresses up as human rights, fighting for the people, and everything else in these extremes. When she goes to these extremes, she needs the black woman in front of her. She needs the black woman to do the barking and the fighting. She puts a quarter in the back of the black woman, and when she puts the quarter in, the black woman gets all charged up and excited, and she feels like she's fighting for something. She feels like she's doing something virtuous. She feels like she's accomplishing something. She feels like she has a purpose. She grows a dick that's 13 inches long, and she starts fighting like a grown-ass man, barking down people, arguing, fighting, all indignant, all over the television, twisting her neck and popping and snapping her finger, and, oh, you told her, girl. They use the black woman like their personal pit bull on a leash. Get him, girl. Get him, girl. But the white women that do this, they enjoy the comfort and security of their status in society that goes on unthreatened. The white woman is the safest person in this society. No one is safer than the white woman in America. No one. She is the most protected. The black woman is the least protected in this society. Now, isn't that strange? The most protected one uses the least protected one to do her dirty work, to handle the business that she doesn't want to get her hair messy or her clothes dirty in doing. She doesn't want to be found barking and indignant, showing her shadows. The black woman has no problem showing her shadows. She has no problem using her shadows. She has a natural access to shadows because she lives in a forced reality in which she must do shadow work to even exist. That's the black American experience. That's what makes us special. That's what makes us spiritually powerful. That's what makes us more spiritually fortified than anyone. No one is more spiritually fortified than the black American. We were forced to do that work at depths that no one can ever catch up to. And slavery had a lot to do with that. The capacity of spiritual depth that we're able to reach and summon. We summon shadows in leagues. The reason why it's important that I'm talking about these shadows is because shadow work and shadows is the spiritual power and force behind the Aries presentation of the self. It is what makes the spiritual warrior. It is what gets results when it's time to fight. when it's time to rebel, when it's time to have revolution, when it's time to revolt, when it's time to get results. White women in this society have to become very intentional about summoning their shadows because they're so protected in this society, they don't know nothing about that. Except from a personal standpoint, a personalized, limited standpoint of their local experiences with their self. But for the black woman, this is generations, centuries of overwhelm, of trauma, pain, inhumanity pressed and forced on her, of depths that a white woman could never even fathom. She could never even bring to her imagination what a black woman has to go through and process. A black woman's shadows are hundreds and hundreds of feet higher and taller and bigger than a white woman. But the black woman is used to get those results. When she is separated from the black American male, the black woman is lost. She's all over the place. She doesn't know where the Capricorn aspect is to square with her Aries expression. What the black woman gets used for is the Aries power that she has, which is what directs the tip of the knife with power of the shadows behind it. Okay? Your Aries is not effective without shadows, which is why Scorpio shadow work is essential. Aries doesn't have spiritual power without shadows of Scorpio. The black woman has that to depths that nobody can reach, which is why she gets instant results through her spiritual force, even when she's wrong. The black American male is the Capricorn square to herself as Aries. And that square is a demand for purpose, intention, long-term objective, sticking to the course and the point, not going astray, having obedience and discipline, accountability, respecting the laws of freedom unless you create regret and catastrophe. That square has to be there for Aries of Capricorn. That's the black American male who is taken away from her by design. When it comes to the other square, which is Cancer, this is her culture, her ancestry, her forefathers, the family unit, the community that used to be her moral guiding compass. But without that connection to Cancer, you don't have morals in what you're doing. You don't have a conscience in what you're doing. You're not benefiting anyone in what you're doing. You're just selfishly up there with that Aries energy, and white women are putting quarters in your back. Foreigners are putting quarters in your back. People from other countries are putting quarters in your back. Gay people are putting quarters in your back because everybody benefits from the black woman fighting aimlessly so that they can get that aim toward their own opportunity. That can't happen with the black American male because the black American male is going to see that. He's going to know that. He's going to question it. He's going to examine it. He's not going to allow himself to be used like a dumbass. He's not performative as the black American woman is. She is performative. After all, she's still a woman. She wants validation. She wants attention. She wants praise. She goes the wrong route to feel valuable. That is 99% of women. It's about attention and validation. And that emptiness inside of yourself is what makes you become the useful idiot, because somebody uses that emotional crisis in you for their self. And that's the opposition of Libra to Aries. Who's driving the knife? Who's pushing the knife? And why? And the codependency that subjects you to that crisis through Libra. This is the full moon effect that we're trying to resolve right now in our personal life. Who has been driving our knife? Whose useful idiot have we been? Where is my emotional crisis being used and capitalized off of somebody else? Where is somebody putting a quarter in my back to fight for them while I think that I'm fighting for myself? That's square to Cancer. I need to check in with my ancestors. Am I succeeding my ancestors? Am I honoring my ancestors in what I'm doing? Or am I taking us backwards in what they fought for? Am I honoring my family, my bloodline? Is this helping me to cut off and end generational curses that have been prevailing? Am I observing a moral compass and limitations within myself to where I'm not violating natural or universal laws with a matriarchal source? Am I consulting the oracle of my inner conviction and inner child? Am I violating, ignoring, silencing, or muting, stepping over my inner child as I pursue this Aries impulse direction? Do I have a moral commitment in what I'm doing and how I'm going about doing it? The Black American woman doesn't fight for the black family. She doesn't fight for the black man or the black child. She fights for herself. She fights for feminism. She fights for her and her daughters, not even her sons. She doesn't get wins and gains as policies and opportunities and benefits through politics and policies and voting or whatever else and outcomes for the black family unit. She directly opposes the existence of the black family unit through feminism. It's her legacy. There's no such thing as the black community having a gain in modern times. It doesn't exist. The black community in modern times, it is a division. There are black men and there are black women. It is not a single unit. It hasn't been for decades. When people reference, oh, the black community has gained this, has this opportunity, has voted on this, has voted on that, it strictly means black women and black gay men of the Democratic liberal left. That has been the ongoing legacy of what the actual context is for the black community. The black straight heterosexual male does not exist in political opportunities. It never has. He has never had gains, wins, or opportunities in politics and social science and civics. He has not. Because America is designed against him, and it is designed for the white man, which is the personal officer of the Khazarian. The Khazarian has stolen the identity of the black American male. He is the Hebrew. He is the Israelite. He is the Jew that they are pretending to be. This country is designed directly against the black American male. It is designed to benefit and give opportunity and access and status to the white American male. And when we look at the conservative side, it is him upholding white Christian nationalism, which is the Zionistic compatibility to Israel. Message, hello. He is the officer of the Khazarian. And he's under the same illusion for 400 years. He's never had the power that history described him as having. He's never had the authority that history described him as having. Neither has he had the genius or the brilliance that he's been described with. He stole ideas from people of color. He stole creations from people of color. He stole inventions from people of color. He stole genius and creativity from people of color. His whole existence is stealing. He didn't give to the world any means of civilization, science, arts, philosophy, humanities, architecture, mathematics, chemistry, engineering, civics, plumbing, sewage, hygiene. The white man did not teach anybody on earth these things. He was taught these things by others, specifically black people. He was taught these things. His Renaissance didn't teach the world humanity, science, architecture, philosophy, and arts. The Moors are the ones who taught him so that he could have a Renaissance out of his Dark Ages. The Dark Ages wasn't for other people of the earth. It was specifically for white men, for white society, for Europeans. They're the ones who had a Dark Age. Everybody else ain't had no damn Dark Age. He did. The transatlantic slave trade was not the white man's enterprise. It was a Khazarian's enterprise. The white man was an officer, a trustee, an operative of Khazarians, of that de facto estate of Khazarians. He was used by Khazarians because he's most compatible with Khazarians. Why? Because he's the one who's most disconnected from Cancer. The black American male embodies the matriarchal Cancer in his masculine form. He embodies it. The white man is not designed that way. He embodies Capricorn, not Cancer. So the compatibility is not there for that. And on top of that, the Khazarians stole the identity of the Moor and indigenous peoples of the earth who represent the children of Israel. So they have to keep them suppressed. Even Hitler told the world that that was the case. White men's legacy of greatness and genius and brilliance, all this stuff is lies. It's exaggerations. Media, TV, movies, books. It's brainwashing to make you think and believe that that's who he is, and it's not. The Khazarian is behind this fictitious image of the white man. The Khazarian is behind the fictitious image of the thug, the gangster, the D-boy. Who you think was the first mobsters? It was Khazarians who were the first mobsters, not Italians. Who created the street nigger? Who created the D-boy? Who created the gangster, the thug? Khazarians did. Starting with NWA. And the one who dressed them in a particular way was Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan dress the D-boy. Dapper Dan gave the cultural standard style of the D-boy. But the character of the street nigga was designed by the Khazarian. And when it comes to Hollywood, the Khazarian is dedicated to force-fitting the black American male into that image. And he taught black American women to reject us if we don't show up in that image. That's called social engineering. The Khazarian is behind all of this. And the black American woman and the white American man, they both are in the same delusion. They're both in the same state of narcissism, where the status that they think they have, it's all a lie, it's all an illusion, none of it is based in reality. It's all fake. Black women's conceit, arrogance, they look at their curves and looks and all this stuff that they go to the China beauty store buying wigs and makeup and all up in the cameras and twisting and popping out the neck and all this spirit and shadows that they putting out there, putting people in trances with sexual energy and misleading people. The hypersexuality, feminism, turn-up culture, twerking all over everything, no morals, no values, acting like nobody raised them. Regulation of prostitution culture. Hello, Capricorn, transactional intimacy. Everything has a price. I will turn off Cancer in order to have victory in Capricorn. I will sacrifice Cancer for Capricorn. In order to stand at the top of the mountain of Capricorn, I will cut off my entire Cancer connection. I will betray my inner child. I will turn on my inner child. I will sell my morals. I will drop off my values right now. I will ignore my oracle. I will go against my intuition. I will go against my gut. So that I can have the money, so I can have the status, so I can have the power, so I can claim all kinds of merits and titles. The white man and the black American woman have the same mindset. They are ruthless for power, ruthless for status, ruthless to consume for money and possession, ruthless to hold certain measures of control and authority. Ruthless. They will strip away every value and moral conviction that they have in their spirit to obtain their objections. They are obsessed with power. And the Khazarian is what put that seed in them. And they became just alike. Where anything and everything has a price. This is fear-based living. When you enter into Capricorn, you're acting off of fear. Fear of failure. Fear of not being on top. Fear of not having control. Fear of falling down off that corporate ladder. You fall into the shadow of that 8. You fall into the obsession of that Saturn energy. And you become controlling, domineering, authoritarian, and quite ruthless. These are 12th house crisis that finds its way into the 6th house obstacles, but we're not realizing that we gave consent for that to happen And what I'm trying to show you is how the white man and the black American woman is the 12th house impulse in shadow that we continue to consent to as our muse, as our pathway. And it puts us in a corporate Capricorn crisis with ourselves, and we can't see it. And that's in pursuit of Venus without consideration of proper route. The number 9 year last year was to teach us who we were without obsession with Venus, addiction to Venus, being enslaved to Venus. It was to get us back to the real self without these addictions of Venus, exploitation through Venus. I want 5th house manifestation by any means necessary. I will use relationships and exploit relationships for it. 7th house. I will sell my values. I would destroy my self-esteem by corrupting my moral compass and depriving my inner child of its honor and reverence. I will even dishonor my womb to obtain these things. Look at the white man's legacy. He sold and he went into human trafficking for his objectives. My ancestors were sold like cattle, bred like cattle, sold like products. They took ropes and hung us from trees. They hung my ancestors from trees. This was not a long time ago. This was not long ago in history. This was in recent history. The things that the white man allows himself to be capable of, it shows and proves his ability to totally disconnect himself from what makes him human, which is Cancer. To totally disconnect himself from what gives him access to the divine and godlike nature of himself, which is Cancer. He's able to do things at levels of cruelty that cannot be found in Cancer. Inhumane. Wipe out entire species of animals, hunting them down until they don't even exist anymore. Exploiting nature. Nobody has exploited nature like the white man. Nobody has hunted animals to extinction like the white man. Nobody has treated human beings like products, cattle, and commerce like the white man, all under the guidance of Khazarians. His resume is Capricorn extreme. His resume is void of Cancer. He had to learn it from people of color. He had to learn it from tribes of matriarchal, indigenous, and native peoples. You even read the Constitution, it's impossible for that to have come from his spirit, because none of it is his nature. He doesn't think and reason in terms of justice, fairness, righteousness, morals, having a conscience, all of these things of Cancer. Common law, universal law, law that arises from the conviction of the oracle in the gut of the self from the matriarchal mother source Cancer. It is not his nature. It became his nature as he raped people of color, as he raped indigenous and native tribes, and it became part of his blood. But it's not of his nature. It hasn't been his legacy over 400 years. Spreading doctrine of discovery and manifest destiny. Where are we going when people look at Black American women and white men in society, in the extreme left and the extreme right? And in both cases, it's a crisis of Capricorn detached from Cancer, if you should pursue either one of those extremes, because they both end at the same place: the Khazarians' banks, the Khazarians' pockets, corporate power and stronghold. They both end in the same place, and these two are useful idiots of people who lust for that status, who lust for that manifestation, who lust for opportunity in those two extremes. And everybody collectively becomes a useful idiot of the Khazarian who designed it, and it became a matrix that the people are not aware of. The imagination, the dark imagination of Khazarians, the matrix that people exist in as useful idiots. Neptune passing into Aries is supposed to end that crisis. Juno stepping into Aquarius assists the end of that crisis of being a useful idiot. You are hurting the society when you sign up for feminism. You are hurting generations. You are hurting families. You are hurting children. You are destroying womanhood when you sign up for feminism. And you're acting out of fear. You're acting out of envy and jealousy. You're acting out of a spirit of competition. You're acting out of defiance that becomes reckless. When you envy white men, and you think because you're light skinned and you have straight hair or you have a straight nose, among the tribes of your people or community of your people, there's light-skinned versions of you and there's dark-skinned versions of you. And the light-skinned among you, you have this assumption that you have white proximation, white proximity, so you start moving, operating, thinking, and behaving in imitation of white men. But the difference is that his nature does not generate karmic outcome because he's being himself. That's his nature. He has to be taught. He has to learn how to incorporate Cancer into his nature. And he very well could get that from his female counterpart if he should open up and listen to her. He could get that from other people of color in the world and society who can educate him on how to align with that Cancer energy in himself. He can be redeemed, but not the Khazarian. The Khazarian cannot be redeemed. But the white man, yes, he can be redeemed. The Khazarian can't be redeemed. But you sitting up here, you want to be white so damn bad, and it just turns you into the same useful idiot. It turns you into the same narcissist. Because you go the same route as the white man. The first thing you do is desensitize yourself, and you start imitating corporate behaviors, thought processes, attitudes, and dispositions that totally desensitizes you and subjects you to a shadow representation of Capricorn in yourself. And what do? You totally oppress and destroy every Cancer expression and embodiment in yourself and in your environment and in your legacy in order to obtain the objectives that you think will have you standing in the graces of white Western world in America. This is why a lot of people of color who smash a red MAGA hat down on their head, all you become is a white supremacist. You become a white supremacist. Even though you're black, you're Hispanic, you're Asian, or whatever else, you still a white supremacist smashing a red MAGA hat on your head, talking about make America great again. And you turn a blind eye to everything that you see is wrong about this system. You turn a blind eye to everything that you see is corrupt and inhumane about the practices going on in our government, in our country. You pretend like you can't see that we have signed up to become the enemy of the world as this nation. You desensitize yourself and you betray cancer. You act like you can't see the eyes of the matriarchal mother who's telling you right from wrong and good from bad. Why? Because you need to uphold the narrative. You need to uphold the white man's narrative and legacy through the wing of oppression, the 400-year legacy. And your dumb ass can't see you just being a useful idiot with a red hat smashed down on your head talking about MAGA. With your dumb ass. White supremacy is not just about white men. It's people of color who also operate through white supremacy and utilize white supremacy, help white supremacy, leverage white supremacy. When you become an agent of that social construct and system, that systemic regime. Same thing with feminism. You start having talking points where you talking shit about your own people. You always got something to say about your own people. Not that you're trying to champion truth, but you're trying to appease white people so that you can feel accepted in a world that you feel keeps you safe from what would otherwise be opposition that you cannot endure because you don't know yourself. You become like Officer Tatum and all these lost motherfuckers out here with red hats smashed down on their damn head. You're not real. You're not authentic. Since I'm going along the line of shadows, our Aries is not a spiritual warrior without our shadows. You need to think back to the Stellium of Scorpio, 2024-25. The shadows is the part of yourself that people told you you're not allowed to be. It's not welcome. You need to pipe it down. You need to tone it down. Don't say that. That makes me uncomfortable. It's the truth of yourself. It's the honesty of yourself that you suppress, that you hid away, because you were afraid that you would get rejected for it. You were afraid that people will walk away from you because of it. You were afraid to face isolation as a result of it. The shadows expose where you are codependent, where you are emotionally codependent upon other people's opinion, acceptance, validation, or feedback. You have to put your shadows in front of you. You're not in your spiritual walk without your shadows. You haven't begun your spiritual walk without your shadows. Your shadows is what causes other people to clutch their pearls when you speak and when you act. It makes them very uncomfortable if they happen not to be authentic, if they happen not to be real. Shadows exposes the inauthenticity in others. Shadows is what transfers that spiritual conviction and power behind Aries that makes it effective. But remember the square, that Aries has to show obedience to both Cancer and Capricorn. And that is, if we are to create from free will, we have to remember what maintains freedom. At Capricorn, that is accountability. At Cancer, that is moral commitment. Without these two things, you are abusing freedom. You are misusing it. You are abusing it. You are oppressing yourself. You are oppressing others. You are creating regrets. You are being reckless. Moral commitment and accountability. And the opposition with Libra, Who's pushing the knife? Am I being somebody's useful idiot? Who put a quarter in my back? Why am I really doing this? Who's benefiting from this emotional intensification that I have? Who's benefiting from my willingness to fight? Who's benefiting from my desire to fight? Who's benefiting from my fighting spirit? Like, share, subscribe, questions, comments, concerns. Check with me behind the scenes so we could go over this personally and you get your personal notes concerning any of these aspects that I mentioned in here. And you can look forward to classes coming soon, okay? And what I mean by soon, it might even be as soon as tomorrow. You know, I'm very spontaneous. You never know. But I will be giving classes on these things so that you all out there can see that there is a way to apply this, that there's a way to understand it in yourself, the macrocosm to the microcosm. I know I speak to the collective a lot, and I know that a lot of the topics that I go over are very sensitive. You know, a lot of people may feel, uncomfortable. They may get, excited about it and, just not know where to begin or how to receive it. So I'm going to provide the opportunity to have, one-on-ones with me or up close and personal, in a Zoom class where we could go over specifics with each video, or at least with each subject matter that's being discussed, so you get, be able to examine your own charts and details as related to the message. Understand that.